see. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul.
this is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series live tonight from Dover International Speedway in Dover, Delaware. I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports, as Podium Esports brings you coverage of round 4 of 7 of this battle to find out which 20 drivers will make the 2020 NASCAR iRacing Series. Alongside me in the booth tonight is Mr. Taylor Burris. As always, we'll have Gary Weaver down on pit road, and Cisco Scamuza, as always, punching buttons in our virtual production trailer. We come to Dover after surviving Richmond Raceway a week ago, and Taylor Burris, I think, if there's anything that we were able to pull out of Richmond, it's that we're really starting to see the contenders for that top 20 jump up and really begin to assert themselves from the rest of the pack. We're beginning to get a good sense of who's really going to be in the hunt when we get down to the end of this next month at Homestead, Miami. We'll see if we can get Taylor up here momentarily and sort him out. But for the meantime, we'll go ahead and take a look at the point standings and show you where everyone sits after 3 races. Graham Boland, with his victory at Richmond, jumped up into the points lead over John Gorlinski. So Boland now has 11 on Gorlinski, who won Daytona in week 1. And all sorts of fun things, actually. You've got a whole host of people in the top 10, and then a whole host of people fighting right around the cut line, and it's so tight, especially down at the bottom. Justin Bolton, Jeremy Allen and company, Steve Sheehan, Nicholas Shelton, and Brian Schoenberg tied for the final spot. Shelton has the tiebreaker at the moment, but of course that can all change over the next 3 or 4 races or so to wrap up this 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series season. Taylor Burris, will come back to you again, and I want to get your take on the point that I made just a little bit ago, in that I think we're beginning to see the competitors and the contenders really jump up to the top.
I agree with you 100% on that, James. It's safe to say possibly by tonight's race, we could see some drivers already lock their spot into the top 20 at the end of the season. Drivers such as Graham Boland, Ray Alfala, John Gorlinski, and Bob Bryant, who have shown incredible speed all season long. Even though Gorlinski and Bob Bryant didn't have the greatest of races at Richmond, just them being there at the end and getting those final few spots that they needed with that major last lap wreck helped them propel and keep them within the top 5. So it could be safe to say, if they survive tonight here at the Monster Mile, which is a track that is probably one of the toughest circuits that we'll face here tonight, we could possibly see them lock themselves in to the 2020 eNASCAR iRacing Series.
And this is a very, very tough facility to get around. Only a mile in length, but very, very difficult to turn corners. Very, very difficult to sort yourself out on corner exodus. We take a look at the Google map to show you where we are in the world. Not terribly far away from a lot of the major northeastern markets. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, all the major metros served by Dover International Speedway. You're about an hour and change away from each and every one of those 3. So a lot of folks from the Northeast get to come in here. And of course, you've got the casino and the Firefly Festival that take place here when the cars don't go around this racetrack. But this is a racing facility first and foremost that celebrates its 50th anniversary this season. So congratulations to all the folks over hitting the golden anniversary. Taylor Burris, one more thought here, and another thing that I think is worth bringing up before we go to commercial and get you ready for the race. We're in 2020 in sim, and it's cloudy and it's cold. How do you feel like the weather conditions are going to affect this race?
Well, I can tell you what, the speeds are going to be up higher than normal with that compared if it was a hot weather circuit. But also, it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers can maintain the speeds at this track. Even though it's a concrete, it won't maybe as flex as much as I would on an asphalt circuit. It still can have an effect on the handling of these race cars. We've seen in real world racing and in sim racing how the effects of weather can make a big difference for drivers, especially under cloudy conditions.
We'll see how the weather and how all those clouds affect things here at the Monster Mile. But at this point, we're going to take a quick commercial break to get everything set up for the race and then come back on the other side with coverage of round 4 of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. You're watching coverage of the Pro Series presented by Cody Sports here on iRacing's Twitch channel, iRacing's Facebook page, and the iRacing Esports Network. Good evening and welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series, where we're set to go with racing from Dover, Delaware, and Dover International Speedway, and it's time to bring you tonight's starting grid and tell you where your favorite driver will begin this evening. Bob Bryant is your pole sitter for tonight's race. Justin Bolton will roll off from P2. P3 is where you'll find your Daytona winner, John Gorlinski. Ray Alfalo won the second race of the season at Atlanta Motor Speedway and will start fourth. Jeremy Allen in the 08 machine will roll off in the fifth position this evening. Sixth belongs to the 02 of Chris Overland. Nathan Lyon in the 47 starts seventh. Cody Bias, who was so dominant for 3/4 of last week's race at Richmond before it all went south quick, will need a rebound race. He'll start eighth tonight in his bid to try and get the victory that eluded him a week ago. Nicholas Shelton will begin tonight's race in the 9th position, and starting in the 10th position will be the 33 of Benjamin Nelson.
Starting in 11th position will be Liam Brotherton, followed by Brandon Cattell in 12th. Colin Keister in the 25 will start in 13th, followed by Brian Blackford in the 14th position. Brad Mahar will start in 15th, followed by driver in the side, the top 5 in the point standings. Currently, Alex McCullum will roll off 16th. Santiago Tires, your pole sitter from Atlanta, will be starting from the 17th position, with Michael Corriglia starting 18th. Steve Sheehan will start in the 19th position alongside Ethan Lane, rounding out your top 20.
21st will be Eric Smith in the 51 machine. Logan Kraft will start from 22nd. 23rd will be the 00 Will Cooley, and Ashton Crowder will start 24th. 25th will be Chris Sherburne. Jeremy Davis starts 26th. 27th is Michael Guest. David Shutt is 28th. 29th is Corey Carpenter, and Casey Tucker starts from 30th.
31st, Brian Schoenberg with Adam Benefield, 32nd. Timmy Hill will start in 33rd, followed by Braden Bolus in 34th. Matthew Wright will start 35th with Jesse Schwartz, 36th. With Graham Boland starting 37th, last week's winner at Richmond. Adam Giddle in 38th, and Kane Cook rounds out your 39-car field.
We jump to the track facts quickly as they go. Green flag racing here at Dover International Speedway. It's a 1 mile, 1.6 kilometer circuit that opened in 1969. 24 degrees of banking in the quarters, 9 degrees of banking on the straights. We go for 140 laps, 140 miles, 224 kilometers, whichever floats your boat, depending on whether or not you're an imperial or metric system user. We'll have 3 attempts at a green-white checkered on this day that is, technically speaking, March 1st, 2020. So instant, we've already rolled into next year for those of you who are keeping track. 70 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 81 degrees Fahrenheit track temp with partly cloudy skies. As you can see, a little bit more sun in 3 and 4 than in 1 and 2. Humidity at 37%, winds to the north at 2 miles an hour. So nothing too out of the ordinary. It's a little bit warmer than normal for a day like this in Dover, Delaware at this time of year. But Bob Bryant won't mind that all that much, Taylor Burris, because he's already ahead of this field by maybe a car length or 2, and that first 4 have struck themselves out. You have to go back to Ray Alfalo and Justin Bolton to find the first side-by-side battle on track.
Yeah, Justin Bolton did not get a good start here after dropping the green flag. That allowed both Bob Bryant, Gorlinski, Allen, and Nathan Lyon to get the jump that they needed to pull away from the rest of the field, as Ray Alfalo is battling with Justin Bolton, trying to get around so he can go after that top 4 as they go in on turn 3.
Alfalo trying to sort himself out and get a run. He had the inside on Justin Bolton a lap ago, but got loose off corner exit, and I think we'll see that more than a few times. You'll see a lot of drivers get aero loose off the corner. You can see some of the downforce coming off of the rear end of the 2, and the back wheels on that Chevy Camaro were a little bit more sideways than Ray would have liked on corner exit last time by, so we had to see dismount the Bolton and then regroup and try and figure out how to get back to it. But as these tires begin to go and as we progress through the course of a green flag run, we'll just sort of start to see that naturally. I think we'll see a lot of drivers struggle on corner exit because this is one of the most difficult places to get back on the throttle in all of oval racing on iRacing. There's so much banking. It's so easy to get on the throttle quickly and spin yourself out to the inside, as we turn our attention to the number 54 machine of Michael Guest, who is leading a whole pack of cars behind him and is trying to sort himself out amongst Ashton Crowder, Brandon Cattell, Chris Sherburne, all in this ballpark. This is about 23rd, 4th, 5th on back.
Yeah, it's a gaggle of cars right behind Michael Guest. Currently, the 42 and the 36 of Sherburne are going to be the first cars going side by side as they come off turn 4. Sherburne trying to work that outside line, and that's going to help him a little bit with the momentum taking that outside groove. Now he's going to look to the inside of Cattell as they go down into 1.
Taking a peek to the inside of Cattell is Sherburne, but side by side they'll go, and look at Corey Carpenter in that 30 machine get a huge run on the outside, and he just had nowhere to go. Cattell had a boxed in behind the rear bumper of the 80 and pinned in against the wall on the top side there. So Carpenter's going to go to the inside, as is the 41 of Graham Poland, who will take it 3 wide in 1 and 2.
Brave move by Graham Bola. See if he's able to keep it going once they get off of turn 2. Is able to just slide right in front of that 42 at David Shutt and not make any contact. Great pass indeed for last week's winner at Richmond. Now he's going to try to go to the inside of Jeremy Davis, then shuts the door on the 0-1 of Braden Bolus. I mean, what a pass. I mean, that's a slide job if that's not.
Boland started 37th in this race. He's already up to 29th and continuing to roll. Davis is next in line for the number 41 machine. And after last week's win at Richmond, you know he has to have a gigantic wave of confidence pushing that 41 along coming into tonight's race at Tilburn. I have a hunch it might not be too long before we see him a little bit further up the pylon.
Boland's actually one of the strongest drivers who have the best average finish this season. Currently around 5th right now, as he's now working by the 64 Davis. Now he's going to look to the inside of Cattell as they go into 3.
Keeping an eye on the inside of Cattell, looking for another position as Graham Poland. We watch the 41 try and work over Cattell, who will go to the top side and let Poland slide underneath. But will the 41 have the run off the corner to make the pass happen? But goes side by side down the back straight. He got a much better run off of 2 than I would have expected. And looks like Poland might have the opportunity to complete the pass in the middle of the corner.
But with that, we do have a new race leader. John Gorlinski in his number 21 Chevy Camaro was able to get by his teammate of Bob Bryant here at this lap time by. Now Allen's going to look to the inside of teammate Bob Bryant as they go into 3 and 4 side by side. They'll go 08 on the inside, the 53 up top.
08 on the inside, the 53 up top, and Allen is able to clear Bob Bryant. Bryant got held up, so that'll give Nathan Lyon the opportunity to go underneath that 53 machine and take over the 3rd spot. Justin Bolton is right there as well, as is Ray Alfalla, maybe 3 or 4 car lengths back of this group.
That's one of the downfalls here. If you do make that mistake or get blocked off coming off corner exit, that will stop your momentum on these race cars, and you will lose anywhere between 2, 3, even more positions. Now, as you see Justin Bolton losing that momentum, Ray Alfalla back all over the back bumper of Justin Bolton as they go down into 1.
Let's take a look at how John Gorlinski was able to take away the race lead. And, oh, by the way, he's already out in head of the rest of this field by about a second. So Gorlinski really starting to lay the hammer down and stretch out this lead over Allen, who himself is doing a nice job of getting away from this Lyon and Bryan and Bolton and Alfalla group. And now you got Chris Overland in the 02 coming up to the rear of this group, as is Colin Keister in the 25. So if they don't get it sorted out soon, it could be a 5-car battle. But Bryant looks like he's slipping back just a little bit. Nathan Lyon was faster by a 10th that last time by. Bolton ran pretty much an equal lap time, but you could see how much Bolton was held up by Bryant coming out of turn 4 that last time by. And I think the 53 might be struggling with the handling on that car early on in this race. Looks like Bryant's car might be a little tight on corner exit.
Yeah, he is struggling indeed right now with that race car. As you see Justin Bolton look to the inside of Bob Bryant as they come off of turn 4. See him get a little bit loose right there. That's going to allow Ray Alfalla to make the pass on the outside, but Chris Overland tries to take a peek. Could not make it work for him. Now he's trying to take a look to inside of Bolton right now. Now Keister's going to try to take it 3 wide as they come off of turn 2.
As Keister thought about it and then decided to tuck back in line, but he's still just sort of following Overland, and I feel like they're all just trying to track and figure out how they're going to clear Bob Bryant. This very much feels like almost a Bristol-type situation where I think that if one of them can get to the inside of the 53, he may end up dropping back 4 or 5 spots just because everybody's bunched up behind this Chevy Camaro of Bob Bryant. Now, Fallow might be the first to peak, then decides to go up top. Justin Bolton will go to the inside, and then Alfala's going to get the run. I think he's searching for a way around the 53, and he's changing up corner entry and exit to see if he can get enough momentum just to get alongside the 53. sort of get a foot in the door and a little place in the shop window, as it were, to complete the pass. If you get some space, I think Alvala can do it. He just needs the space first, and it might come as they go to 3 this time on.
Inside, makes a beautiful pass, slides right up in front of that 53 of Bob Bryant as they come off the turn 4. Bryant tries to take a look at the inside to do the crossover. Won't work this time by. Slots right back in line, get in front of Justin Bolton. Now behind those drivers, Colin Keister as well as Chris Oberlin are trying to do battle, along with Benjamin Nelson, who's in that mixed pack as well, in that number 33 as they go down the back straightaway into turn 3.
Bryant's got this whole group backed up, so now you've got Bolton, you've got Oberlin and Keister running side by side. Ben Nelson is there on the top side. Cody Bias, who had such a strong run at Richmond last week, is there. Liam Brotherton has joined this group. Nicholas Shelton and Alex McCollum. That's everybody from 5th all the way to 13th. So about 8 or 9 cars in this group trying to figure out what to do. And Ray Alfalla, incidentally, now that he's cleared Bryant, has managed to jump away from this group by about maybe 3 or 4 car lengths.
And that's what can happen when that one car is kind of bottling up the group. If you're able to get by, you can start pulling away, especially if your car is suited for these certain longer runs. Maybe Bob's car is a little bit better on a short run now, and his car is starting to fall off as he's starting to get a little bit too tight through the middle corner exit.
If he's getting tight, I feel like a lot of the drivers behind him are just trying to follow suit, follow his line, because Justin Bolton was running that middle groove that Brian's been running for the last few laps. Chris Oberlin is starting to slide up there. You've got a few more drivers towards the back of this group. Cody Bias is up there. Liam Brotherton is up there as well. So everybody's just trying to figure out where they need to go in order to survive this first bit, not run over each other, which at this point I think is the big thing, is Ben Nelson got a big run and then had to check up behind Colin Keister. That'll stack up Bias and stack up Brotherton too.
Yeah, that's going to allow Alex McCullum, along with the 12 of Nicholas Shelton, this pack. So now we have all the way back to 14th position involved to break inside the top 5. As you see up ahead, Justin Bolton takes a peek to the inside of Bob Bryant as they come off of turn 4. Can't quite make the pass work, so has to slot.
Just has to sort of stick in line and wait for his point, wait for his moment. Alfalla is still ahead of Bryant by about 3 or 4 car lengths, but pretty clear, I think, at this point. That you look at some of the lap times here. Gorlinski ran a 23.9 last time by. Allen was a 24.0. Lyon was a 24.0. Alfalla was a 23.9. Bryant's car might actually be coming to him a little bit better. He's starting to normalize with the rest of this group. So might be a long run car that Bryant actually has. We'll wait and see how it develops as we get towards lap 30 of 140 tonight. A little bit shorter race here at Dover than you're going to find in some of the other Pro Series races this season. But everybody still just sort of stuck behind Bryant. That's where the first big battles on track are all happening. And then you have to go all the way back to about, call it maybe Eric Smith, I guess, after you get past McCollum and now Shelton and Steve Sheehan in the 6, who's also managed to race his way up to this group. And then Smith, Brian Blackford, Michael Guest, the next real battle on track, and then everybody else from there. Just pretty well spread out, save for Corey Carpenter, Santiago Turos, and Graham Bolin, who are racing from 21st to 23rd.
Graham Bolin trying to work his way after starting outside the top 35. Great recovery run currently right now as we're looking up through. I'm watching that battle for second between Nathan Lyon and Jeremy Allen. They've been going in lanes throughout each part of the track. Right now, Jeremy Allen still holding on strong to the outside groove while Lyon tries to work that bottom groove off corner exit. And it seems to be working at some parts during the run. But here right now, Allen holding off Lyon once again as Alfalla is slowly but surely creeping up on this battle for second.
Alfalla's creeping his way up, and I'm seeing more of these cars just start twitching and just start getting a little bit sideways on corner exit. You can tell that the tires are starting to go a little bit. Meanwhile, what a fight between Ben Nelson, Cody Bias, Alex McCollum, Liam Brotherton and company, all side by side racing for position behind Chris Overland, who's cleared them all.
Yeah, a great battle indeed between Brotherton and Bias as Brotherton looks to the inside of Bias, but Bias with that momentum on the high side is keeping him up there, keeping him allowed to keep the fight strong as they come off of turn 4. He's able to pull about a half a car length over Brotherton as they go into 1, and McCullum looks on, trying to also work that outside group.
Ben Nelson has already cleared this group, but is gone by about 3 car lengths. So you see the advantage that these single cars have over the cars that are stuck side by side. Bias now with the nose ahead of Brotherton as they come through 3 and 4, and I think he'll be able to get the run off the top side and clear Brotherton for the spot. So move Cody Bias into the top 10. Brotherton back to 11. McCollum still sitting in 12. Now here comes Nicholas Shelton looking underneath Steve Sheehan for the 13th position, but Sheehan will close the door in the middle of the corner, and that'll give McCollum the chance to inch away ever so slightly, though might not be by more than maybe a bumper at best.
Tell you what, another driver who's doing a good job working his way up through the field is Michael Gariglia. He's up inside the top, or right at the top 15 position right now, setting his sight on Nicholas Shelton as they go back into turn 1. Now up in front of them, McCullum looks to peek to the inside of Brotherton as they come off turn 2.
McCollum continuing to look underneath Brotherton and trying to send that 10 car one more spot back. Steve Sheehan's also there for the record. Nicholas Shelton is there. You've got Gariglia, who's also sitting right at the rear of this group, so he's calling up to everyone here. Meanwhile, Bob Bryant is still the sort of head of the tail, and all the battles are pretty much just stuck within this group as McCollum looks underneath Brotherton again.
He's doing everything that he can to try to complete this pass, but it's not working out too well for him. McCullum's going to have to try a different route in order to try to see if he can get by Brotherton, but right now he has to worry about Steve Sheehan.
Might have to worry about Sheehan, but McCollum will continue to press, continue to try and shuffle underneath Brotherton and try and get the run off the corner, and still can't get the momentum that he needs. But to be fair, they all just sort of came off that corner stuck. Didn't really look like anybody gained much of anything on anyone, and the differences come in the corners as you see Sheehan starting to change his line to try and find a way to get alongside McCollum, and I think that's the big key we're finding out pretty quickly here at Dover. If you can find a way to get alongside someone, doesn't necessarily matter if you're going to carry the momentum immediately, but if you can get alongside somebody, that's your foot in the door to try and complete the pass. And usually, if you can do that, you're in decent shape. It's just a matter of getting alongside someone. That is the tricky thing here at the Monster Mile, at least up to this point as we work lap 38 of 140.
Hard to believe we're only getting so close to 100 laps to go here at Dover. And another driver has already completed the pass on Bob Bryant and move him inside the top 5. That's going to be Colin Keister. He breaks inside the top 5 as now Nathan Lyon has moved up to second, getting past Jeremy Allen. Has to worry about Ray Alfala now for the fight for third.
Big fight for third indeed as Alfala has called up to Jeremy Allen, and Nathan Lyon has gotten around the only, but the yellow flag is out. Ryan Blackford is in trouble, and there may be more with him, but Blackford in the 32 is the initial reason for the caution. And as you see the replays come up on your screen momentarily here, it was Graham Boland who just sort of dove in underneath the 32 and tried to get to the inside, and just committed a little bit too much. As Ethan Lane caught some of the 32 with the right side of his very brightly colored Toyota Supra. But Blackford gets a little damage, Lane gets a little bit less damage, and we're under the yellow flag at lap 39 of 140 here at the Monster Mile.
It's going to be safe to say that everybody who is out on the racetrack will be coming down pit road to get fresh tires and fuel added to their race cars. The question will be who will win that race off of pit road as the field starts to make their way down pit road.
The field will start to make their way down pit road. Also, I think it's interesting. I see in the Twitch chat here that Jordan Worth in particular says we need more Brian Schoenberg. So I suppose we can give you an update on how the number 5 is doing. Schoenberg is sitting in the 31st position at the moment right now after starting in 31st. So not too much progress to be made yet for the 5 car, but plenty of time left to operate in this race. Plenty of time left to take advantage of some of the incidents that I think are forthcoming to gain some spots.
As we have a couple of cars who did decide to stay out on the racetrack right now. It's going to be the 64 of Jeremy Davis along with the 81 of Adam Benefield. So a little bit of strategy call for these drivers. It is early enough in the race to be doing that. Wonder how their cars will handle once we get back under racing.
And or if that's what you really want to be doing, given that these drivers are going to have 40 laps on their tires, I think if you're either one of Jeremy Davis or Adam Benefield, who are the two drivers that stayed out, you're hoping that you get another quick caution so you can come in and pit for tires in relatively short order. Otherwise, you get stuck out for, 20, 25, 30 laps. You are very toast unless they just wanted a little bit cleaner pit road to deal with, didn't want to deal with having to run into each other or to run into other cars, since this is one of the trickiest pit roads in all of iRacing, and they've just decided to come down here on the second lap of the yellow flag, which means that John Gorlinski will jump back to the lead. We'll take a moment to remind you during the broadcast that if your brand or business is interested in partnering with Podium Esports, we have space available for you. Podium Esports is a plan for every budget and can custom tailor solutions to suit your business or brand's needs best. For more information on the wide variety of partnership possibilities, send an email to admin@podiumesports.com. As the lights are off on the pace car, and John Gorlinski will lead the field back to the green flag on lap 43 of 140. Nathan Lyon will be second. Then it'll be Jeremy Allen, Ray Alfalla, Colin Keister, Bob Bryant, Justin Bolton, Benjamin Nelson, Chris Overland, and Alex McCollum, your top 10. Taylor Burris, if you're flipping a coin, is it a quick yellow or do we get another long green flag run? What do you think?
I'm going to have to go with statistics. Normally what happens, cautions do breed cautions, so I have a feeling probably within the next 5-10 laps we might see ourselves another caution here at Dover. But I've been wrong before. We'll have to wait and see what will happen. John Gorlinski's going to start on that inside, so we'll have to see if he's able to get the good enough run on this restart here.
As Gorlinski gets off, gets away, and goes, Alfalla immediately drops to the bottom there in third or fourth and might be underneath Nathan Lyon before they even get to turn one. What a restart from Ray Alfalla to switch lanes and get right under the 47 and take over the spot. That was masterful from Ford Time to jump up into P3 before they even hit turn 3, and he might bring Bob Bryant with him.
But Nathan Lyon's fighting up on the outside, trying everything that he can, but Ray Alfalla will complete the pass as they come off of turn 4. He has to now deal with Bob Bryant, who's able to slide right in front of as they go down into turn 1. Nathan Lyon has to struggling a little bit on that outside groove. It seems like you do not want to be that driver on this outside row and on the front row as they're now coming down, as he's lost a total of at least 2 spots, soon to be 3.
Gorlinski and Allen and Alfalla and Lyon are all in line. Bob Bryant's in 5th for the moment. He's got Colin Keister all over him, though. And then Ben Nelson and Chris Overland are fighting for 8th and 9th. That's the first side-by-side battle within the top 10. Alex McCollum, Liam Brotherton there, a little bit further back. Cody Bias, Nicholas Shelton, they're all over the place from about 12th on back.
Right now, the best battle going on is that battle for 5th position between Keister and Bryant. Bryant in that number 53 holding strong on the outside as Keister tries to hold it out. Now Bryant washes up a little bit wide. That will give the opportunity to Colin Keister as they come off of turn 2. Justin Bolton, though, watches on, trying to work that outside groove to make it happen with him to carry the momentum on.
So there goes Keister to the bottom, trying to fight a Bolton. Keister got really loose out of turn 4, though. He was halfway sideways and just about ready to head into that inside retaining wall. So he'll give up the spot to Justin Bolton, but the alternative that might have happened, I think he'll be happy to continue in 7th, because it very easily could have been game over for the 25 very, very quickly in that moment. And they'll stick themselves one by one all the way.
Ooh, hard into the wall. Colin Keister off car 4 as the caution comes out.
So Colin Keister got a little bit of the fence, and the yellow flag comes out here at Dover for a second time. Matthew Wright is the driver who brought out the yellow flag. You'll see the replay here momentarily, and we'll find out what happened to the number 13 machine as he was coming down the back straightaway. Looks like he got a little bit of help from the 31 machine of Logan Kress and got sideways and did a nice job of saving it, not actually completely looping the car around, but it was still enough to be in the racing line and bring out our second yellow flag of the evening.
Well, it's safe to say that I was kind of close on the judgment call on that as we had a caution here very quickly. So let's see what some of these drivers will decide to do. Will they stay out and risk it with the tires that they have, or come down and get fresh rubber to help gain a few extra spots before this next round of green flag pits up or another caution comes out?
9 laps on these tires for everyone, so it's certainly something that you could look into, and I think Gorlinski's not going to take a chance. But who will, and/or will anyone decide to try and pull a strategy move on this number 21? But I don't think so. Looks like just about everybody is going to come in that can, and the only question is whether or not somebody decides to jump in, although looks like we might have a few that have decided to stay out. We'll see if that holds over the course of this yellow flag. We saw a few drivers stay out on the first lap of the yellow and then come into pit road afterwards, but we may have a few strategy takers here. We may have a few drivers staying out on these older tires to try and gain the track position.
Yeah, right now a total of about 5 or 6. David Shutt, Brian Schoenberg, Timmy Hill, Jesse Schwartz, Jeremy Davis all have decided to stay out on the racetrack here, seeing if this strategy will work. As the race off pit road is underway, Jeremy Allen will win that race off, as he will be followed by Nathan Lyon and Ray Alfala, your top 3.
Really, really impressive stuff for that host of cars there. For Allen in particular, who had a great stop. Lyon, I think, gained a few positions. Alfala held Gorlinski with the long stop there, who slides back just a little bit and ends jump 4th out of this group of cars that have just come off pit road. So it'll be the first time Gorlinski hasn't been in clean air since the beginning of the race, really. Let's see how he adapts on this restart.
Have to see indeed to see what groove he decides to take now. Was he going to take that inside line and see if it'll be able to work for him? And let's see also about the top 3 who decided to stay out on the track.
As we wait to see whether or not we're going to have a little bit more of a yellow flag period. Lights are still on the pace car, so looks like we will, which gives us a chance to remind you all that Podium Esports has plenty of events coming up over the next week for you all to tune into beyond this Pro Series broadcast, if you're so inclined. And it starts this Friday night with the final race of the 2019 Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. The Series 3 finale for the short course at Road Atlanta will be on the iRacing Esports Network this Friday night, November 15th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. Then on Sunday night, you can head to twitch.tv/Podium Esports for one of the final rounds of the iRacers Lounge Podcast Oval Series from Rockingham Speedway. We bring the Class B stock cars that you're seeing on your screens here, since that's what they run in the Pro Series, combined with the Class C trucks. They go at it from the Rock next Sunday night, November 17th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're not drained by whatever we see in the championship finale at Homestead, you turn over to twitch.tv/Podium Esports and find out what will happen in the iRacers Lounge Podcast Oval Series before we come back to Pro Series broadcast here on the iRacing Twitch channel, the iRacing Facebook page, and the iRacing Esports Network. Next week will be at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and if you need a date for your calendars, November 19th, 8:45 p.m. Eastern is when our broadcast will kick off from round 5 of 7, the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series, the final race before we take a break for Thanksgiving, and then the new build that will come out in early December. Lights are off on the pace car. David Shutt is your leader. Brian Schoenberg will roll from P2. Jesse Schwartz will roll from P3. Those 3 drivers stayed out. That it's Jeremy Allen, Nathan Lyon, Ray Alfala, John Gorlinski, Bob Bryant, Justin Bolton, and Graham Bolin.
Let's see what Brian Schoenberg, along with the other drivers up on the outside groove, such as Jeremy Allen, can do on the outside lane. It has not worked best for these drivers who take the outside lane compared to drivers such as David Shutt, who is currently on that inside groove. So we'll have to see what he's able to do once the green flag is out, as the pace car is pulling down pit road.
Pace car comes down pit road, and we shall see how this plays out, especially for these drivers in the front 3 and how they stack up everybody behind them as we go green flag racing once again from Dover. Decent start from Shutt Decent start from Schoenberg and from Schwartz, but look at Nathan Lyon now on the top side, trying to run them all down on the outside lane. He's going to bring, I think that might be John Gorlinski to the inside. You've got Jeremy Allen up top, who's cleared all of them. The Schwartz could not get going on the bottom, and Gorlinski's just stuck. He's got nowhere to go. And oh, by the way, if you were wondering where Graham Bolin is, all the way up into the 10th position, and alongside Gorlinski, who is still stuck behind Jesse Schwartz.
Poland's almost going to take it 3 wide, and in fact, several drivers are going to take it 3 wide down the back straightaway. Gorlinski trying to go around the outside now. Jesse Schwartz as they come into turn 3 and 4. That one now has to have a pass for the lead. Trouble in the front straightaway though. Major accident. Brad Mahar, Cody Bias, along with Jesse Schwartz, all piling up on the front straightaway.
A lot of cars involved in this one to bring out the third caution on lap 55, and I had a hunch it might be coming. As Schwartz had absolutely no speed whatsoever, and I think he might have been the first one to go around, or certainly was near it, as Schwartz ran into trouble, as did Brad Mahar, as did Cody Bias, and looks like the 01 machine of Braden Boulos was the one who got into Schwartz, but that was after Schwartz was already spinning, and I think it might have been the contact with Mahar that might have thrown him off, as Mahar, I think, was just trying to go to the outside and got into him a little bit, had to check up, tried to get out of the way, and then ended up in trouble. Schwartz went down to the inside, Mahar went down to the outside and collected Cody Bias, and how about that trio of cars that just snuck through? Nicholas Shelton, and actually Shelton ended up in the fence with a little bit of damage, but Michael Guess had a really interesting view of this one, as did Eric Smith. Those two just escaped the significant amount of damage. Beyond that, Liam Brotherton was a little bit sideways in this. Ethan Lane got some damage. Casey Tucker picked up some damage. I believe Adam Gilliland was involved as well. Logan Kress with some damage to the front of his machine. A lot of drivers towards, especially the back end of this field, caught up in this incident on lap 55.
That's going to be a detrimental for some of these drivers who are just outside looking in on this points battle to get inside the top 20. They have to do everything that they can to try to get back out on the racetrack in order to do that. Brad Mahar is one of them, as he is just barely holding on to that top 20.
Just barely hanging on as we try and see how things are going to shake out, and we'll see if anybody decides to come down pit road for service. Shutt and Schoenberg, incidentally, are still out there on the racetrack. I figured they would have very easily come in to get fresh tires, but maybe I just know nothing. We'll go ahead and bring
Nick
in
Shelton.
Nick Morris. How about that? We snuck him in a little bit, and we'll talk to the High Performance Motorsports.
Sorry about that.
Trying to hang up here in the box. It's all right, Nick, but looks like you're playing pit strategy pretty well at the moment. You've got David and Brian both up there in the top 5. How's the night been for you so far?
High on anxiety. You know, Eric barely snuck through that last wreck. That was really close. Then you guys caught me talking shop there, so I apologize for that. We have fast cars. We know it. We've been running top 5 times all night. But like everyone else in the series, it's track position. Everyone out here is obviously on pace. It's a fantastic group to compete with. But good strategy call. I think we made the right call, and we'll see if we can capitalize.
And we'll let everybody get back to it here. We'll see how things go as we get back to racing in just a moment. But we saw that green flag stretch at the beginning, then a lot of yellow flags. What do the HPM trends tell us so far as cautions go? I figure we're probably going to see a few more before the night's over.
Yeah, I think we had 6 on our R&D research this week. And I think this is just a guess. We're going to see probably 15 to 20 lap runs to the end. That'd be optimal. I mean, I'd love for it to go green, but yeah, I expect short runs to the end. That's what we prepared for.
Short runs, so sprint runs. So a lot of drivers up on the wheel, a lot of aggressive driving. Should make for a very entertaining end of this race. But Nick, as always, we thank you for the time up here on the booth, and wish best of luck to you and the HPM drivers throughout the rest of the race.
Thank you. We're excited about it. Best of luck to everyone out there. Obviously, fantastic series, and good luck to the HPM Total Advantage guy.
There's Nick Morris up on top of the box for High Performance Motorsports this evening. They got David Shutt and Brian Schoenberg both in the top 5 at the moment. So a pretty good night so far, and at the moment for the HPM drivers.
Pace car lights are off, so we are just now getting ready to go back green flag racing here at Dover International Speedway. Getting ready to go through. It'll be Jeremy Allen leading them to the green, followed by Nathan Lyons on the outside row with David Shutt in the third position. Ray Alfalo will be starting in fourth with Brian Schoenberg rounding out your top five. Then it'll be Bob Bryant, then followed by Justin Bolton and Graham Bolin. And then rounding out the top 10 will be Chris Overland and John Gorlinski.
Intriguing top 10 here, and a few different strategies to pay attention to. Namely, you've got Shutt, Schoenberg, and I think just those two, because Schwartz was swept up in the wreck. But the HPM drivers on 10-lap older tires than everyone else. Give or take a few laps across the field, across the board. About 9 or 10 laps on their tires, give or take. And then everybody from Liam Brotherton on back in 20th just came down pit road under this yellow. So you might watch to see some action towards the back half of the top 20 as we go back to green flag racing. And Nathan Lyon was just caught completely asleep at the wheel. Did not get going at all. So Jeremy Allen's out in front by 3 or 4 car lengths to begin with. David Shutt's got a good run on the bottom. Ray Alfala is on top along with the 47. And then Bob Bryant's up on that high side as well.
The two HPM cars trying their best to hold on to the bottom of the racetrack now, as we see Nathan Lyon be able to skirt away into the second position. Now Ray Alfala will sneak by to third, followed by Bob Bryant. Now Shutt and Schoenberg having a tough time as we see Chris Overland look to the inside of Schoenberg as they go down into one. Side by side they'll go. Overland will try to complete the pass off two, but Schoenberg with the outside momentum will be able to hold on. Now Graham Bolin's going to take a peek to the inside behind Chris Overland.
Oh, the 21 of John Gorlinski in the wall, and the yellow flag out again at Dover. And one more car swept up into the fence. Couldn't quite tell who it was, and we'll find out on the replay. But Gorlinski in trouble here midway through the race at Dover. And I think it might have been Brian Blackford that was the other car not up in this incident. But it started with Gorlinski. He was the first one to go around, as we'll take a look on the replay and see what happened to the number 21 machine. It was a wild run through turn 3, and looks like a little bit of contact from Ben Nelson sent the 21 up into the fence, and he just caught Liam Brotherton and Brian Blackford, and Blackford ended up spinning up into the outside retaining wall just around turn 4. I don't know if Brotherton got that much damage. We'll see whether or not it affects the 10. He definitely got a piece of it, though. He definitely got a piece of the 21, no question about that.
Another driver who got involved with that is the 81 of Adam Benefield as well. Got made hard contact with Brian Blackford as Blackford lost control and spun back to the bottom of the racetrack as well. So his car is going to be severely damaged and might possibly even be done for the night.
Brotherton with a decent amount of damage on that right side. Might be something that he looks to come in and fix. As the machine might have to consider that throughout the rest of the race. No pit stop this time around for Brotherton, but for a few other drivers, we've got some folks in pit road. We've got Overland, Brandon Cattell, Cody Bias, Colin Keister, Brad Mahar, Ethan Lane, Will Cooley, Matthew Wright, Casey Tucker, Adam Benefield, and Timmy Hill, all on pit road for service, along with the wounded 21 of Gorlinski.
Tough run for Gorlinski right there. That is something he does not need to happen for him tonight, especially with how strong of a car he had early on. But that's the risk sometimes you have to take when you make those stops and don't get the best start off coming off pit road and have to start towards the back.
As we continue to push on and wait for the second half of this race to show. It is a shorter race, but Dover's one of those tracks where, depending on the way the race plays out, it can race like a short track and race like what we saw at Richmond a week ago, where you have a lot of short green flag runs spaced out by a lot of cautions, or it can race like a larger 1.5 mile or 2.5 mile circuit where you get long green flag runs of 60, 70, 80, 90 laps, depending on how things shake out. It just sort of depends on the mood of the field at large and the nature of the race. And we had a long green flag run to open up this race, but since that green flag run wrapped up, cautions and cautions and just a few more cautions.
Just shows how hungry Miles the Monster is tonight, as he has collected several victims here at tonight's race for Dover. And a lot of heavy hitters. We just saw John Gorlinski being involved in that last incident. We saw Brad Mahar, who was outside looking in, trying to get into the top 20. And then, of course, Brian Blackford, another strong contender to work his way up into the top 20, had a difficult run, task, couple of cautions.
Couple of cautions here. And Bolin in particular is a driver who I think you have to watch out for. 37th to 8th in this race so far, and we're only 6 laps away from halfway. We haven't even hit the midway race break yet, and he's already made it up to the top 10.
Just shows how much momentum can carry you, especially when you get those wins. And Graham Bolin is definitely one to watch here. I'm pretty sure before this race is over with, we'll see him up battling inside the top 3 for this win.
We'll see if the lights come off on the pace car, and they do, which means we'll get a restart on lap 66 of 140. Jeremy Allen will be a race leader, followed by Nathan Lyon, Ray Alfalla, Bob Bryant, Justin Bolton, David Shutt, Brian Schoenberg, Graham Bolin, Eric Smith, and Ben Nelson now in the top 10. And again, Shutt and Schoenberg in 6th and 7th on 10-lap older tires. 25 laps on theirs compared to the 15 for everybody else. If you're looking for other cars that have picked, Kane Cook, Liam Brotherton, Michael Carigli, and Chris Shearburn, all on 8 or 9-lap old tires. Then everybody from Brad Mahar and 22nd on back came down pit road this last time by. So again, if we get a green flag run, those drivers will be in a great position to start charging up towards the front of the field with the fresher rubber. Waiting for the restart to come here as Jeremy Allen gets going. Nathan Lyon immediately drops to second. Eric Smith was on the apron for a moment there, but got back up on the racetrack. Lyon will go to P2. Bob Bryant will try and pin down Ray Alfalla to make sure that the two can't jump up into P3, as Bryant should get the run coming out of the corner and at least hang tough with the two. Then you've got Justin Bolton behind them, and then David Shutt alongside Graham Bolin. Bolin will make quick work of the 42 to slide up into P6.
Great pass by Graham Bolin now to move into P6. 3 wide behind him with Schoenberg, Michael Guest, and Benjamin Nelson as they go down into 1. Now McCullum will fill them inside middle groove as they go down into turn 2, and still side by side as they come off.
Still side by side is Bolton and Bolin. If you need a tongue twister, try and say those last names together 5 times fast. But it's Bolton that currently has the run on the high side and has the position for the moment. But that charge from the 41 machine, something that we have to talk about tonight. He's been so impressive coming up through this field with only a little bit of damage on the front end of that 41 machine. It's certainly not as much as you would think he would have to pick up coming through the field, but he's cleared Justin Bolton and has now got his sights set on Ray Alfalla in the 2 machine for the 4th position.
Right behind him is going to be a battle for that 6th position between Justin Bolton and Eric Smith as they're coming off turn 2 side by side. Bolton gets into the wall just a little bit, but I tell you what, they are definitely struggling with those race cars. Extremely loose coming off of turn 4 for both of them as they're now coming off of turn 4 once more here, able to keep it a little bit more smooth their run now as they go down into turn 1.
Another driver that we can talk about who we haven't said too much tonight, Eric Smith in the 51 machine. Pretty impressive run from that car too, up into 7th at the moment after starting 21st. Not quite the run that Graham Bolin's had, but he's managed to sneak his way up through this and without any sort of pit strategy whatsoever. He's just come in and found the pace, found a groove during green flag racing, and has done a very nice job of picking off some of these cars and making his way into the top 10. So maybe keep your eye on the 51 machine as this race progresses into the second half of the night. As the yellow flag comes out one more time, I think Matthew Wright might be in trouble once again, and indeed he is, as the 13 machine is in trouble off of 2. And as we see the replay, it was just a little bit of contact from Ethan Lane, and then Nicholas Shelton had absolutely nowhere to go. Just ran right into the side of the 12 machine. I think Brian Blackford got into more trouble there. I don't know if anybody else was swept out in the incident. But for those drivers, really, really tough stretch of the evening. Right in particular, Shelton with nowhere to go. And could be the end of a solid run, or at least a chance at a solid run for all of the drivers of that team.
Yeah, especially for Brian Blackford. I think he is ready to cross this race off the list and move on to the next one. As another car is still stuck down towards the bottom of the racetrack. Nicholas Shelton still having a tough time trying to get it turned around and get on pit road, but that car is definitely going to need a lot of repairs done to his car.
Tons of repairs necessary all around for that trio. Shelton's got absolutely no front end. Matthew Wright's got no. At least he's got a hood, so I suppose that's an advantage. But just a tough night, as you said, for Blackford. And then Wright, too, who's also been involved in more than one yellow flag, as the rest of the field comes down pit road for service. And Chris Sherburne, Will Cooley, and Timmy Hill had decided to stay out once again.
Yeah, these drivers right here, Jeremy Davis, Timmy Hill, Will Cooley, Chris Sherburne, they need to have a good run here tonight, especially with some of these other drivers who are having problems. This could help them boost their way up into the top 25 and have a shot at breaking into the top 20. So with this strategy call, it could help out for them, especially of how short the runs can be.
As we wait to see how this is going to pan out. We'll see if these drivers stay out. We will bring you tonight's iRacing Midway race break, and it looks like they got their sights set on the lead. I think this is a strategy play, so we'll go ahead and jump into tonight's iRacing Midway race break, which as always is brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series, with racing from the Australian Supercars, the Cars Tour, on the Podium Esports Network, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. After 73 laps complete of 140, Chris Sherburne is your leader over Will Cooley and Timmy the Thrill Hill. Steal one from our good friend Tony Stevens at the Cars Tour, I suppose, and our friend Ronald Hill. But in either case, Sherburne, Cooley, and Hill all stayed out. They've got 18, 12, and 12 laps on their tires, respectively. Jeremy Allen runs in the 4th position. 5th is Nathan Lyon. Bob Bryant runs in the 6th spot. Ray Alfala currently holds 7th. Graham Bolin is 8th. 9th belongs to Eric Smith. 10th to the 98 of Justin Bolton.
Currently sitting in 11th position will be Benjamin Nelson, followed by Michael Guest in 12th. Alex McCullum sits in the 13th position, followed by Corey Carpenter, who's gained quite a run, started 29th up to 14th. Steve Sheehan currently sits in 15th, with David Shutt in 16th. Brian Schoenberg is in the 17th position, followed by Michael Gariglia in 18th. And then a big run tonight for Kane Cook. Started 39th, is now up to the 19th position. And rounding out your top 20 is Colin Keister.
21st belongs to Ashton Crowder in the 27th machine. Brad Mahar runs in 22nd. Chris Overland holds the 23rd spot, and 24th belongs to Braden Boulos. Liam Brotherton runs in 25th. 26th belongs to Cody Bias. Brandon Cattell currently holds the 27th position. 28th belongs to the 26th of Ethan Lane. Casey Tucker in the 28 car runs in 29th. And then 30th belongs to the 18 of Santiago Tires.
31st is going to be Adam Benefiel, followed by Adam Gilliland in 32nd. Jesse Schwartz is going to be sitting in the 33rd position, followed by Brian Blackford in 34th. 35th is going to be the John Gorlinski, and then 36th will be Matthew Wright. First car one lap down in 37th, Nicholas Shelton, followed by Jeremy Davis in 38th, and Logan Kress is sitting in 39th.
And that will conclude tonight's iRacing Midway race break. With over 80,000 drivers on the service and over 80 LaserScan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is the original esports racing game. For more information, you can visit iRacing.com today, as we wait to see how this is going to pan out, with Chris Sherburne in control of the race for the first time tonight. Will Cooley to the all out on old tires. So what will Jeremy Allen do? Not much here. Nathan Lyon got a great restart, though. Could be 3 wide going into turn 1 for the moment. There goes Lyon to the inside. Jeremy Allen to the outside. Timmy Hill stuck in the middle. He'll slide back up top. Here comes Bob Bryan underneath Timmy Hill. And now Nathan Lyon looking underneath Will Cooley for second.
Nathan Lyon shot out of a cannon now, as they're still going to try to be 3 wide as they come off of turn 4. Jeremy Allen just stuck behind Timmy Hill, as Ray Alfala was stuck into the inside of both drivers to take up, get into the 6th position. But right now, Chris Sherburne holds on to that lead for a few seconds as they come off of turn 2. Nathan Lyon will take it as the caution comes out.
Trouble again back towards the back of the field. A lot of cars around in turns 1 and 2. I see Chris Overland involved in this a little bit. I don't think he was the one that started it, though. We'll see what happened. Looks like it may have been the 34 of Brad Mahar that might have been, well, actually, no. Would have been Michael Guest, who was way slow up top in the 54 machine, who got into it with, I believe, the 98 of Justin Bolton. As Bolton got a little bit of help. Couldn't tell who that might have been from. Maybe Steve Sheehan and Alex McCollum. Looks like teammates would have gotten into each other, but McCollum gets into Bolton, gets into Guest, who gets stuck up at the fence. Bolton with a lot of damage to the right side, by the way, as does Michael Guest. And then Brad Mahar bounced off of Michael Guest, came down into Chris Overland. Those two spun. They collected, I'm suspecting that might be Braden Boulos on the 01 machine. Liam Brotherton just snuck out away from this, as did the 26 of Ethan Lane. And then they all just sort of stopped up from there. Michael Guest got it 2 times because he managed to clip the 34 Mahar right at the end of this. And I believe everybody else from that point was able to get away.
That was just cars all over, ping-ponging around the track and making contact with each other. So that's unfortunate for drivers such as Michael Guest, who is having a pretty decent run working his way up through the field. But this is going to make it a little bit more difficult for him tonight.
We'll see how many drivers decide to sort things out here on pit road, if anyone takes advantage of this yellow flag for fresh tires. And at this point, it almost feels like a moving target. The idea would be, in theory, to pit and come in as far away from the checkered flag as you feel like you can, and then stay out and not have to come into pit road again. But that also means you have to have some idea of when that last caution might come so you can time it correctly. And as we've seen over the last 30 to 35 laps or so, Taylor Burris, I think it's just about impossible to figure out when that moment might be at this point, because it's just been maybe 5 to 10 lap green flag runs at best before the yellows come out.
Yeah, it's very difficult to point out when would be the opportune time to make those pit stops and determine what would be the best strategy for your driver. So these crew chiefs who are working with these teams are definitely scratching their head trying to figure out the best strategy to get home the win tonight.
So we let everyone roll here under the yellow flag light. Still on the pace car at Dover International Speedway. This is round 4 of 7 of the 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series season. Racing for 7 races using the Class B stock car, the Xfinity stock car, as most people will know it by. But under iRacing's classifications, technically speaking, it is Class B. And the top 20 in points from this series advance to run in the 2020 NASCAR iRacing Series, with the top 20 in points from the 2019 NASCAR iRacing Series, all the way up to our brand new champion, Mr. Zach Novak. Will be back at it with 20 of these drivers in next season's season opener at Daytona, coming up in February, but we don't necessarily know who those drivers are going to be. I'll try and find that out here over the course of this race and the next handful to wrap up this 2019 Pro Series season. While we have a yellow flag, we'll also remind you that Podium Esports merchandise is now available on the Podium Esports website. The Podium Esports online shop is the only place to find official Podium Esports flex fit hats and t-shirts. You can order today and represent the best competition in sim racing wherever you go for only $10 per item. To purchase Podium Esports merchandise, visit www.podiumesports.com/shop. As Chris Sherburne will lead the field of green on lap 82 of 140. It will be Sherburne, then Lyon, and Cooley, and then Bryant, and then Bolin, and then Alfala, Allen, Smith, Nelson, and McCollum. Chris Sherburne has 25 laps on his tires. Will Cooley has 19 laps on his tires. They'll restart first and third. Everybody else all the way down to 24th, running on 8 or 9 lap old tires. So a little bit more on Sherburne and Cooley than everybody else. We'll see how long they can stay up towards the front of this field.
I tell you what, I'm going to be looking forward to seeing what Graham Bolin can do once we drop the green flag. He gained several spots on that last restart. Let's see what he can do once the pace car goes down pit road.
Boland has been aggressive and come up through this field like a cannon as Sherburne goes and Cooley goes, and Lyon really didn't go all that much at all, so he'll drop to the bottom. I think he might have been trying to look for the hole to get in front of Boland because he knows how fast that 41 machine is, so Bob Bryant will try and take advantage and get momentum on that high line to get alongside the 47 as Cooley will go up there to try and block people, and instead he'll get freight trained from underneath. There goes Nathan Lyon. There goes Graham Boland. Yellow flag out once again here at Dover.
Looks like it's going to be Jesse Schwartz and a couple. Ooh, we got a car stuck up on the barrier up there. That's the 64 of Jeremy Davis, who had a little bit of a tough time. He's decided to take it down pit road and get it towed.
Ethan Lane was where this started. That much I can tell you. He had a little bit of help from Timmy Hill and then got into Braden Boulos, and those two made contact down to the inside retaining wall, and then a few more cars got into it coming into turn 3. Looks like the 64 machine managed to land on his roof for a little bit, so Jeremy Davis had a little bit of fun tumbling Joey Logano style in turn 3 and managed to go up and over on his lid for a little bit. I think there was one more car swapped up in that instant too. I believe it was 81 of Adam Benefield. They got caught up. It was the one who turned the 64 up into the fence, but in either case, yellow flag out once again at Dover.
Yeah, now I believe Ethan Lane has decided to pull it out behind the wall. His night will be done here at Dover. I believe Corey Carpenter might also have had some problems.
I feel like if you're Chris Sherburne or if you're Will Cooley, you're sort of digging how this is playing out at the moment. You love the fact that you've been able to maintain the track position just because there have been so many yellow flags, and this may end up working out very, very well for those two. And if you're curious, Sherburne started in the 25th position and Cooley started in 23rd, so they're currently up 24 and 21 positions on where they started. A very, very strong return on investment in the strategy, as it were. If everything holds, they can find the opportunity to come down pit road for service. But I think they're both sort of thinking that we might have a few more yellow flags to work with before we actually get a green flag run or get to the end of this. Currently, we're working lap 84 of 140.
Even though we've had several cautions already come out, this race has definitely flown by. I mean, like you said, we're on lap 84 of the 140. Not much time left for these drivers to work their way up through the field, and even so, what can they do as far as strategy-wise? There's not a lot of give and take for them now compared to what we saw earlier where some drivers decided to stay out.
So wait to see if lights will go off on the pace car, and they will not this time, so at least one more lap of yellow flag pacing here at Dover International Speedway. If you look through this top 10, just beyond Sherburne and Boland, I'm trying to find other drivers who have solid stories to tell. Ben Nelson has ping-ponged through this field. He was way back near 30th at one point and has rallied back up into the top 10. Currently runs in the 8th position. Eric Smith, we talked about a little bit earlier, started 21st, currently running 9th. Brian Schoenberg, who chat has been very, very high on over the course of the evening, started 31st. And we said he had some time to make up some spots earlier when he was running back in 31st, right at the end of that first green flag run. Guess what? He's now up into 12th. So the crystal ball here at Podium Esports might not be so broken after all.
No, not at all. I mean, if he keeps this up and if we keep having more cautions, Schoenberg could have a good finish inside the top 10, maybe even a top 5 before this is all said and done. So we'll have to keep an eye seeing what Schoenberg can do.
Sweet. Wait to see how this will pan out. Wait to see if we'll get lights off on the pace car, and we do. As we see how things are going to shape out. And once again, you look at the point standings, you look at how everything lined up. Brian Schoenberg was right on the edge of that 20th and final place into the 2020 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series coming into tonight. So how helpful would a good run be for him, especially with the troubles that Nicholas Shelton had? He got swept up in that wreck at the caution before this most recent one. So Shelton certainly likely to have a poor points performance tonight could be in very good shape for Schoenberg to make up some ground and get into the top 20. Top 10 for this restart will be Shearburn, Lyon, Bolin, Cooley, Alfala, Bryant, Allen, Nelson, Smith, and McCollum.
Going to be a great fight indeed as we wait for the pace car to come down and turn them loose once again at Dover.
Wait to see how this will pan out. Wait to see who will jump and make the move. Wait to see how Shearburn gets away, and the answer is very well, as Lyon drops right down to the bottom again, or at least looked at it. They're all the way down to the inside, just a little bit further back going into one, but pretty solid start for the first 4 drivers or so, and Nathan Lyon will drag Graham Bolin with him into P3, and Bolin, who started 37th on the grid tonight, currently up in a podium position, but hard racing a little bit further back. Ben Nelson and company all over the place, as you've got side-by-side action throughout the rest of the top 10.
Going to go 3 wide into turn 1 by the looks of it. Will Cooley on the outside, Nelson and Smith on the bottom of the racetrack as they come out of turn 2. Now Eric Smith's going to try to work the inside to get by Benjamin Nelson, who gets real loose coming off of turn 2. But Will Cooley having a tough time with those older tires now, as he's almost going to go another 3 wide with McCullum and Schoenberg, who trying to dive it in there.
Yep, Cooley really starting to slide back on the old tires, and we'll watch and see if that causes any issues with these drivers trying to go 3 wide, and there it goes. Cooley gets hit, car sideways, yellow flag out once again. I think it's Kane Cook in the 55 who eventually did get swept up, and I had a sense that might happen. There was a lot of 3 wide racing. Wasn't sure if everybody was going to need or leave the space necessary, and Ashton Crowder and Kane Cook come together. The 55 bounces off the side of the 27 into the 00. He ends up in the fence. I think everybody else managed to escape that incident, not run into trouble, but the pit strategy does eventually backfire for the 00 machine, and looks like Kane Cook ends up also getting swept up in that too.
Unfortunate for Kane Cook, who had a really good run going for him, working his way up about 20 positions gained, but unfortunate for him, his night might be done for him.
As we wait to see whether or not anybody's going to take advantage of pit road this time around. I certainly think if you're Shearburn, you may well just, now that you're out of the lead, and no surprise to see that 36 gave it a look and then decided to stay out on the racetrack. So nobody coming in for 4 tires fuel service until you get to Liam Brotherton at 18th, and even then a few drivers behind that 10 car will decide to stay out. So as these drivers come down pit road, let's bring in Gary Weaver. We haven't had the chance to talk to Gary all night. We've been pretty busy covering restarts and yellow flags and recapping incidents and talking to things. But Gary, your assessment of what you've seen within the first 90 laps of the race this evening.
There's multiple ways to put it, but for now, this is Dover being, well, pretty much Dover. It's unforgiving for the time being because, well, it seems no one can really catch a break. I've seen Brian Blackford involved in multiple incidences, and of course he can't catch a break. Chris Shearburn, he was doing such a great job, and then he got shuffled back on that restart after being on looks to be roughly maybe 15 or so lap older tires compared to what was now your top 3. So it's in a sense insanity, but I guess in this case, well, for Dover, that's essentially normal.
I'll ask the question of you, and I may go ahead and get Taylor's opinion on this too, but if you're Chris Shearburn, given what just happened to Will Cooley, where the pit strategy ended up putting him 3 wide with a lot of drivers and essentially got him into that mess in part, because if he had fresh tires, he wouldn't be 5 to 10 miles an hour slower than everybody else coming into the corner. We I suspect probably would have avoided that incident. If you are Shearburn and if you're with Shearburn's crew, are you worried that the same thing may happen to you, given that you've got about 15 laps on your tires compared to all of the drivers around you? And it's even more if you get back to about 20th or so.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely going to be even a little bit more nerve-wracking for Shearburn because he's restarting on the outside here when the lights go out next time around. So he's in a very precarious situation. And the last time that we've seen a few drivers stay out on even just a few lap older tires, maybe about 15 or so, a few restarts ago, it didn't go so well. They got shuffled back. I think a few people as well had gotten involved in accidents. So for Shearburn, He's used his current tires. He's used his current set all that he can. So I'm pretty sure at this point he might want to start thinking, when is the next time to pit? Well, he's almost made it to 40 laps. He's going to be 39 laps on his current tire set right now at the start-finish line, and we're just coming up to lap 100. So you might be waiting for just that moment.
And if you're Ray Alfala, Graham Boland, Michael Gaston Company, given that John Gorlinski is not going to have a good finish tonight with the damage that he's picked up, or at least certainly not quite the finish that he would have hoped for, how aggressive are you in the second half of the race, knowing that if you maintain your position, you're in for a very, very good point tonight. You are well on your way towards feeling very, very good about your chances of making the 2020 NASCAR iRacing Series.
Yeah, I'm looking once again, Nathan Lyon, 9th place coming into this. I'm seeing, let's see, Graham Boland, he's 3rd place coming into this. Ray Alfala was 2nd place coming into this. So for Nathan Lyon, if he keeps this position, he's going to be great. I mean, Ray had pretty much sealed it at Atlanta for sure. So as you can see, he's only just 1 point behind. He was when you saw the graphics. So he's for Ray Alfala, he's definitely going to be in another good position here to get some points. And well, for everyone else, in terms of aggressiveness, just have to be very careful before Miles the Monster gets you.
Well, Gary, as always, thanks for your time. We'll look forward to hearing from you in just a little bit. Restart should come here momentarily, though. It'll be Lyon, Boland, Alfala, Sherburne, Bryant, Allen, Smith, Nelson, Sheehan, Keister. Good top 10. A few names that we haven't spoken about in a little bit, making their way back into the top 10 on the back half of that. But all about what Nathan Lyon will do and what Boland will do in response. Lyon will go. Boland, I think, would like to get down to the bottom, but Ray Alfala got a pretty good restart. But now here comes the 41 with the run, so he'll jump in front of the 2. They'll be side by side between Sherburne and Jeremy Allen in the 08 machine, as Sherburne now might be liable to start slipping back the same way that Will Cooley did on the last restart.
It's going to be fairly safe. Agree with you on that, as they're going to try to take him too wide down as they come off of turn 4. Everybody trying to get to the inside of Sherburne as they're now going down to the 1. Steve Sheehan, though, in that number 6. Definitely a man on a mission now as he's worked his way, taking it 3 wide on the start earlier. Now he's going to try to get by both Sherburne and Eric Smith as they come off of turn 2.
3 wide, a little bit further back in this pack, waiting to see if that's going to become anything. Liam Brotherton, I know, right in the middle of that. They still won't shake, still won't let go. But everybody up to Ray Alfala, Graham Boland, Nathan Lyon, all single file here. And you have to go to Eric Smith to find the first 2 wide battles. It looks like they finally settled down a little bit further back.
Yeah, right now Brian Schoenberg and Chris Sherburne are going to go side by side. Michael Gariglia and Colin Keister as well are going to go side by side as they go into turn 3 and 4. It's still going to be right on each other's door. Gariglia trying to hold on to Colin Keister as now he's going to try to look to the inside of Schoenberg, taking it 3 wide almost as they go into 1.
Also note, this all happening right behind Chris Sherburne in the 36, and I imagine that the 36 may be stacking up these drivers just a little bit, though it looks like he's got more pace than Will Cooley did on the last restart, so it might not be the same sort of issue for the rest of these drivers. But Sherburne trying to hang on to the track position with the older tires, doing a solid job of it so far, but he still has 42 laps on his Goodyear Eagles. Everybody else 25 or 26 laps in all those spots right around him, so definite disadvantage on the river for the 36, but for the moment doesn't seem like it's affecting him too much.
No, not at all. He's doing a great job of holding off the rest of the field right now as we have a battle for second between Ray Alfala and Graham Boland once again going side by side as they come off of turn 2. Bob Bryan looks on while Jeremy Allen gets a good run off of turn 2.
As they continue to push on, Ray Alfala and Bob Bryant now looking underneath the 41 machine. Alfala should get the spot on Boland to go to P2 and does. So the 4-time NASCAR iRacing Series champion now up into second, trying to get his second win of the 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. He's got maybe 0.3 of a second to run down Nathan Lyon and try and go after the race lead. Meanwhile, Boland is still right on his tire tracks as they work their way around the lap car. Brian Blackford and that front 5 all really strung themselves out. No real battles on the racetrack until you get to Cody Bias and the 42 machine of David Shutt, the 14th and 15th on the racetrack.
The drivers are now trying to work by quickly. Brian Black for the lap car as he's doing the best he can to stay out of the way of these battles going on. And this could cause a little bit of a problem for some of the drivers as they go into the corner as they're really trying to work their way around it, and a little bit of a stack up as they're now going to go 3 wide down the front straightaway.
They continue to push on, and we work our way into the final 40 laps of tonight's race. Chris Sherburne still leading the big pack of cars that are running side by side. Colin Keister running with Ashton Crowder. Cody Bias also in there. The strongest car from a week ago at Richmond, trying to work his way around this group, but he's stuck behind that number 25 machine. Good news for him, though. Keister got a great run on Ashton Crowder coming down the front straightaway that last time by. But then Crowder fights back on the inside. They're still side by side. And if you're Bias, where do you go to try and get around both of these two? As I think Bias might have gotten the wall or got a little bit of help going into the corner. And then one car goes sideways and around and up into the fence to bring out the yellow flag. It's Alex McCollum in the 91 machine who runs into trouble and brings out our next yellow flag of the evening. And he got a little bit of help from Liam Brotherton in the 10 car, just a slight little tap, and all of a sudden the 91 was around and into the fence.
That's something that McCullum does not need. And remember, he's sitting in around that top 5, top 6 in the point standing right now. And this is something he needs to not happen to him, as he is going to have a little bit of a struggle for the rest of the night.
McCollum came into tonight 5th in points with the drop, 6 points back at John Gorlinski for the race lead, and I think now we can chalk them up into the column of drivers who won't necessarily have the runs that they wanted. Gorlinski, to be fair, he's sitting in the 19th spot as everybody will come down pit road for service this time. Nobody taking any chances this time around. So we've all decided fresh rubber is what matters more than anything else, including Chris Sherburne as they come in to get fresh Goodyear Eagles for the final 35 laps and change of tonight's event.
Timmy Hill, one of the drivers, decided to stay out on the racetrack. Let's see what he can do, but due to the fact of how his car has been early on, I would take to say that might not be the best strategy call.
It just depends. Alex McCollum is still out on the racetrack too, waiting to see if those two may decide to come down pit road this time around, or if Hill is just outright going to stay out and try and gain the track position. It wouldn't be the first time that the 56 has tried to do that this evening, and we've seen it work to some effect. Chris Sherburne managed to hang on to some of the track position and ended up in a decent spot at the end of it all, and Will Cooley-Trinan ended up getting in a wreck and currently is scored in the 31st position. So it could go either way here, as McCollum is going to come down pit road, and I think Hill is going to stay out, and I think he is going to try and play the strategy. It is going to sit out there, but also of note, Eric Smith took 2 tires on this most recent pit stop, but it looks like everybody else took 4. So when we get back to the restart, it should be Hill, I'll presume at that point, on 17-lap old tires, and then Eric Smith on 3-lap old tires, but he's got the 2 fresh ones, and then the other ones I think should be in about the same ballpark of Timmy Hill's 16-lap old tires. So he'll have the mix, and then Nathan Lyon will be your first car with completely fresh tires underneath his number 47 machine.
To see how this strategy goes for some of these drivers, but it's going to be a little bit difficult to play out. So we'll have to see what Eric Smith can do, what Timmy Hill can do. But I have to say, drivers to watch for have to be that 53 of Bob Bryant, the 2 of Ray Alfala, and Graham Boland, of course, as well. They've been strong all night long, so I'm looking forward to see what this restart has to hold.
Boland in particular, we've talked about him a lot already, but 37th at Dover 2P4. No denying that the 41 is a car to watch if he can hang around to the end of this race, but we've seen a lot of drivers end up in trouble tonight already. I think we're probably not quite done with seeing the yellow flags, and we may have a few more incidents to talk about before we get to the end of tonight's race at lap 140. So they get ready to start working lap 107 and put 106 laps complete on the board. Lights are off of the pace car. Restart will come on lap 108 of 140, so 33 to go. When they come to the stripe, Timmy Hill will be your leader on 4 old tires. He'll have about 14 laps on everybody else. Eric Smith has the 2 fresh tires and then 2 old tires. Graham Boland will start fourth behind Nathan Lyon, who will restart in the third spot. Lyon is the first driver in this field on 4 completely fresh tires, and everybody else back followed suit. So it's Lyon, Bolin, Alfala, Bryant, Allen, Sheehan, Nelson, Gariglia, the rest of your top 10. Waiting for the pace car to come off. Waiting to see what kind of restart Timmy Hill will get. Eric Smith on the outside with the best track position he's had all night. Waiting to see how this is going to pan out. Hill's going to wait in the box and then go. Took a long, long while to get going, and then Eric Smith is going to just about get run over by Graham Bolin and have no chance. Here comes Bolin to the inside. Here comes Lyon to the inside. And then they go 3 wide through the corner for second. And Bolin goes right through the middle. Is going to get a huge run off of 2. Get right to the inside of Timmy Hill. And Graham Bolin will complete his march to the race lead. And from 37th on the grid, Bolin is now your race leader. Contact. There goes Timmy Hill up into the fence. No yellow flag yet. He'll stay up there. We'll stay green flag racing for the moment. We'll see if there are any issues coming into turn 1. Looks like everybody's clean. So Timmy Hill got the wall. Everybody else managed to keep it going. So Bolin now leads, then Lyon, then Alfala, then Smith, then Bryant. You don't have to worry about anybody going side by side until you get back to, I think, that might be David Shutt, Cody Bias racing, or David Shutt and Brandon Cattell racing for 15th and 16th.
What a save for Timmy Hill, but unfortunate for him, he dropped all the way back, pretty much outside the top 20 for him. So he's going to be definitely struggling right now to work his way back up to the field, especially with those old tires now. As we look through the field, Liam Brotherton is also trying to work his way back up after that damage. Him and John Gorlinski and Justin Bolton are battling.
Meanwhile, Graham Bolin is gone. Already half a second clear of Nathan Lyon. Ray Alfala all over the 47 for P2 at the moment, but Bolin already driving away from this field. Had a sense with the way he came to the field, if you gave him clean air, it might be really, really difficult to catch him. Looks like we're seeing that bear fruit now. Last time by, Bolin put down a lap that was only 2/100ths of a second quicker than Lyon, but still, that's going to add up over the next 3 laps. If we stay green, it's now 53/100ths of a second, or about 5 or 6 car lengths between the 41 and the 47.
I'm still amazed at the drive that we see right now from Graham Bolin, as a couple of cars are getting a little bit loose off the turn 4, but started 37th, worked his way up through the field patiently, and also made brave decisions to make his way back up into the race lead. This is showing that he is definitely going to be a contender, not just here in the Pro Series, but also in the 2020 NASCAR iRacing Series.
We'll be curious to see how this sort of package translates. Yellow flag out though once again. Braden Boulos, I believe, the one in trouble, as the 01 is around on the front straightaway, and the yellow flag is out once again as Boulos was helped along by, looks like that's the 02 of Chris Overland, and just sort of turned around on the front straightaway and sent for many a loop right after the start finish line. But the yellow flag out again on lap 114 of 140.
Well, that just means we just rack them back up and start all over again for these drivers. Some of them might consider to come down and get some tires to be able to be a couple of positions. But overall, so far, no one coming down pit road.
Who will get tires? Is it worth it for someone to get tires? Is it worth it for someone to take that gamble? And to me, you figure Timmy Hill's going to come in, especially with the damage that he picked up coming out of 4 at the beginning of that last restart. But I have to believe if you're anywhere around 20th, I look at David Shutt, John Gorlinski, Santiago Tires, Corey Carpenter, that group in down, coming down pit road won't hurt, and maybe some drivers a little bit further up the field too will go for it. Chris Shearburn looks like he's pretty committed, and then at the last moment he decides to jump off. So Brandon Cattell will be the first one to come down pit road for service, and he's going to bring a pretty sizable group in. Chris Overland is coming in along with Liam Brotherton, David Shutt. I also see back here John Gorlinski, Santiago Tires. I think that's the 98 of Justin Bolton. Corey Carpenter in as well. Timmy Hill, Braden Boulos, Matthew Bright, Justice Forrest, some of the drivers that have been involved in wrecks earlier this evening. But To be fair, if I'm at that point in the field and I'm in those positions, I like this call. If anything, it gives you the chance to get fresh rubber and get yourself on a slightly different strategy compared to the rest of the field.
Exactly, exactly. I could not agree with you more on that situation. Make the gamble. See if you can gain those extra positions. See if you can gain those extra points. I mean, what more could you lose? You're already in the back already. Why not try to see if you can beat the rest of the field on tires?
So we'll turn to Gary Weaver here one more time. I think we can get a few more words out of our pit reporter, Gary Weaver. I like the strategy if I'm in 18th, 19th, 20th. Do you like the strategy that we've seen from some of these drivers a little bit further back in the field, the Bolton, Cattell, and everybody back group of coming in trying to get fresh rubber and at least put yourself in a slightly different position that might gain you a few spots, especially if we go green flag racing for a bit?
Yeah, it's definitely a very good idea, especially if you're in the back. And it's also kind of not exactly the best idea, but I mean, at the same time, there's just a whole host of pros and cons when it comes to that. At the same time, you have just over 20 laps to go on this restart, so that makes sense to come to pit road for the back half of the field to see if anything does happen in the front 15 that did not pit. Well, might as well take advantage of that, get some fresh tires, and see what happens.
Take advantage of the fact that you're not going to lose that many positions even if you do have a bad pit stop. Meanwhile, if you're Graham Bolin, what's your game plan to this restart? And/or Nathan Lyon, do you think we'll see anybody change from what we've seen throughout the majority of this race, where the leader will go and then second place will just drop to the bottom to block? Do you think we'll try and see that from Nathan Lyon? And if you're Ray Alfala, are you anticipating that and adjusting the way you get going so that you can counter that going into one if need be?
Oh, for Graham Bolin, he just went flying on that last restart, so I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to catch at least somebody off guard in a sense. For Nathan Lyon, well, you just have to hope that Graham Bolin clears you and that Ray Alfala isn't immediately on the inside, right at the back bumper of 41 to Bolin as well. So not only is it for Bolin and Lyon that are going to have to be on their toes for this restart, but even Ray Alfala, because he doesn't even know whatsoever when Graham Bolin's going to go. Graham might even wait till the actual green flag. He might go as soon as the pace car goes off. It's just a whole host of really wanting to just pay very close attention and keep your foot on that throttle just for that reaction time.
And then finally, Gary, over-under on the amount of cautions we'll see within the final 30 laps. 20 laps, rather.
Well, that depends. We do have 3 green white checkers that are available, so in this case, probably at least in the final actual 20 laps, I'd say 1 or 2.
All valid points all around. Big thanks to Gary Weaver once again for his insights from pit road, as Bolin will lead the field of green on lap 119 of 140. Then Lyon, then Alfala, Bryant, Allen, Sheehan, Gariglia, Smith, Nelson, Schoenberg. All your top 10 at this point. Waiting for the pace car to come off. Waiting to see what Bolin will do, what Lyon will do. Bolin will go. Alfala did not get going at all in that restart, so that gave Lyon a free pass to the inside to get right behind as they go way down to the inside to block. How about that between Jeremy Allen and Michael Gariglia as they wreck a little bit behind him? Justin Bolton, I think it's the one sideways. The yellow flag is out once again.
Just shows the desperation some of these drivers have. They know this is just going to be the halfway point of the race for these drivers. Every point will matter, and we just saw that there on that restart with Allen and Gariglia.
Justin Bolton brings out the yellow flag. He spins basically in front of the whole back half of the field, and somehow they don't hit him. Impressive job by going to go a little bit further back to make sure that they didn't get into the 98s. But just a slight little bit of contact between the 98, and I want to say it might have been Chris Overland who got into him, and it was indeed the 02 that made contact with the 98 coming into turn 1 to bring out this yellow flag. But back to the point that you just made, Taylor, yeah, everybody trying to race for track position, everybody trying to gain what they can, and again, the huge block from Jeremy Allen on Michael Gariglia went all the way down to that apron to make sure that the 15 wouldn't get alongside him. So slightly reminiscent of Edwards and Logano at Homestead, Miami a few years back, I would say.
Yeah, it certainly was. Almost looked like both of them were about to hit that inside pit wall before they made it into the turn. I'm surprised that they didn't make contact.
At this point, looks like everybody's going to stay out. So
It will
we'll see if you
be.
can sneak up and maybe talk to Nick Morris. We'll just start making a joke of that.
You
Yeah,
keep
Graham.
interrupting me.
Well, you are in the transfer room, to be fair. So, but we had Graham Boylan last week after his interview. We have Nick maybe Morse up here with us. And Nick, you said you thought we'd see a few more yellow flags, and I have to say your crystal ball was very, very accurate. So can you tell us where you purchased your crystal ball so we can maybe go buy a few more for ourselves?
Hey man, data doesn't lie. I watched Moneyball or something like that. I don't know, but fantastic race so far. I'm really happy with HPM. Probably shouldn't have put 2 on Eric there, but we're doing okay, and try to see if we can't get 3 cars in the top 20 and 2 in the top 10 here with the total van.
You talked about the yellow flags a little bit earlier. You said you thought you'd see more, and I think I've got to believe that what just happened between Alan and Gariglia up front is indicative of the amount of aggression we should see in the final 20 laps of this race. Do you think it might get any crazier than that?
Oh, it's definitely happening. I don't see why people aren't going to be in full send mode. You know, there's going to be 18 to go. I think we go green here, and 3 green-white checkers. Half the field's junked, so yeah, it's going to be, you know, send it to end it fight.
All valid points, all reasonable points as well. Nick, thanks for your time. Best of luck in the final 20 laps of tonight.
Thanks, guys.
There's Nick Morris, who is hanging out, trying to get HPM as high up the totem pole as he can, as the restart will come on that 123 of 140. So he's right. 18 laps to go when we get the green flag. It'll be Bolin, then Lyon, Alfala, Bryant, Sheehan, Allen, Nelson, Smith, Gariglia, and Keister. And Sheehan in particular, there's a name we haven't said too much tonight, sort of in that same bucket as Eric Smith was a little bit earlier. And Sheehan had been running towards the back half of the top 20, but here he is in the final 20 laps of tonight's race, and now up in the top 5, looking for the season's best finish in that number 6 car, as we wait to see how everything's going to pan out here. And I actually believe we're going to get one more lap of yellow on this, so might push the restart back to lap 124 of 140.
All I gotta say is, ladies and gentlemen, be prepared to watch these last few laps here. It is going to be one heck of a show here. Who will be the braver ones to go into break it into the corner? Who will be the ones who make the mistake and cost them a chance to make it into the top 20 here after tonight's race?
I'm going to table Mike Polisek's Ask the Booth question, the favorite race to watch in real life. And if you are curious, you can use the hashtag Ask the Booth, and we will select our favorite questions from chat to take over and come up and answer in chat. We might have some time if we get another yellow flag to touch that one. I've already got a few ideas in my head, but
I got one I got for next week. For this weekend, I'm going to.
fair enough. Fair enough. Can't argue that. Pretty big weekend down in Florida, at least, if you're near that. But lights are off. Pace car will come in. The race should be very, very wild. End of note. 3 green-white checkers to work with. So we have a ways to go before we're staring down the possibility of ending this race under the yellow flag. Not necessarily something we have to worry about yet. As the green flag goes again, Nathan Lyon drove it way up to the top side. I think he got loose a little bit there, but again, Alfala struggling to go. Then Nelson really struggled there and backed up a few drivers, and then contact in the middle of the field. They're sideways. Big save there. I think we're somehow going to stay under green.
Never mind, we got trouble in the background.
And then it was the 8 machine of Adam Gilliland that finally did go around to bring out the yellow flag, but there was someone who was very, very sideways a little bit before all this, and I think it was the 28 of Casey Tucker, who was all kinds of loose contact with Brandon Cattell, maybe Chris Sherburne a little bit. An incredible save from Tucker to make sure that he didn't spin around in front of the field, and then Adam Gilliland just got loose coming back up onto the racetrack. Looks like the rear end of that 8 almost gave way from underneath and set him around. He got up into Jesse Spores a little bit before he hit the inside retaining wall on the back straightaway.
Most impressive for some of those drivers to avoid. Unfortunate for Adam Gill, and he was working his way back up through the field. But with that, he's now going to drop all the way back to the last car all in the lead lap for him. But now Graham Boland's got to do it again. Try to see if he can get a good restart here once we go back green flag racing.
So we've got two bits and pieces that we can touch on here, since I'm getting a few little nudges, to say the least. But first, I'll tweak the question just a little bit and flip it and say your favorite NASCAR race to watch over the course of the season. And I would say, especially with this current package, the place that I love to watch, really enjoy the races at Auto Club Speedway in Southern California. That's a track that's really benefited from the Gen 6 package in a way I think few other tracks on the schedule have, and we usually get a very entertaining race in March when we go out to Los Angeles. So I'd say if I'm picking a NASCAR race to watch, outside of the Daytona 500, of course, but at least right now, that's definitely going to be a pick.
For me, a great NASCAR race to go and watch. To be quite honest, it will not have to be in the Cup Series or in the Xfinity Series. I had to say some of the best racing that I've watched this year, it has to be in the Truck Series for me personally. Of course, the Eldora Race Dirt Derby is by far one of the best truck races so far of the entire season and schedule in recent years. So I'd say that has to be my all-time favorite NASCAR race, other than, of course, the Daytona races.
Cisco chimes in, wants to add his 2 cents, and his picks are also in the Truck Series, Eldora, and then Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the trucks. Their road course to start off their playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs, so on and so forth. Sometimes I can do a decent Jim Mora, but there's certainly that. And then Gary Weaver might have an answer. Gary, do you want to chuck in your 2 cents here?
Yeah, I went this past weekend, actually. Was it this past weekend? It was this past weekend. The Xfinity race at ISM. It's the third race that I've been to at ISM Raceway. So I've yet to go to a truck race there. I'm hoping for next year, so that might top the list. But for now, it's the ISM race where Allgaier won.
In these Class B cars, these Xfinity Series cars, Solid Package 2, and also, since I'm getting nudged from some folks at the red, white, and blue logo, Taylor Burris, do you know what's happening on February 11th, 2020?
I'm going to take a wild guess, and something to involve speed, high banking, and Daytona?
Perhaps. I think the most important point to pull out of that, though, wouldn't necessarily be the speed part of it, but the E part of it, don't you think?
I agree with you on that.
Just because we can tell you that if you're marking a date for your calendars and trying to figure out when you want to tune into the season opener for the NASCAR iRacing Series, February 11th, 2020 is when you'll see them back in action and see 20 of these drivers from the 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series compete with the top 20 in points from the 2019 NASCAR iRacing Series. So, if you wanted to go ahead and mark it down, certainly something that you can keep track of. But for now, we've got to finish off this Dover race in the Pro Series. Restart to come on lap 129 of 140. It's Bolin, Lyon, Alfala, Bryant, Sheehan, Allen, Smith, Keister, Nelson, Gariglia. Should be fun. Waiting and waiting and waiting. The anticipation. The waiting is the hardest part, as Tom Petty once said. And Graham Boland doesn't have to wait anymore. He gets to go. Lyon gets a decent restart. Alfala got a better restart than he had in some of the prior ones, but still not good enough to get alongside the 47. So those two will go 1, 2, 3. Bob Bryant's already clear of Sheehan for fourth. So Sheehan will race with Jeremy Allen side by side and run right down the rear bumper of Ray Alfala. Does Bob Bryant, and then Eric Smith in there, Colin Keister in there, Ben Nelson in there, Michael Cabriglia in there, and one more car. Brian Schoenberg in the 5, all racing side by side as we enter the final 10 laps tonight at Dover.
10 laps to go. This is the time for these drivers to work their way up through the field, gain every point that they can. Some of those drivers, such as Gariglia, Nelson, Schoenberg, as the caution comes out.
Yellow flag out again, and a lot of cars around on the back straightaway this time. And we'll go back to the replay, see where they started. But Braden Boulos was up on his roof for just a little bit. That much I could tell. We'll wait to see where the rest of this came about. But they were wrecking well before Boulos got involved with this. Timmy Hill was part of this, and there were a few more cars trying to figure out where they started. I think this goes, and we look at the beginning of this. This is Santiago Tsuros and Timmy Hill on the 56 who get it going, and those two wreck. You get Matthew Wright swept up in this. You get Will Cooley swept up in this. Adam Gillen didn't know where to go. Nicholas Shelton didn't know where to go in this. And there was almost a double pirouette for the 8 and the 00. May have to bring back some. Did we call me crazy, Taylor Burris? But did we have our first inductees for the Pro Series into the Podium Esports Space Administration, perhaps?
I think we have indeed, and we had some extreme life off with that driver, Will Cooley. So we had a couple of drivers actually go airborne tonight. Davis with another one early on. So Will Cooley, I think, is going to be the next astronaut for our space program.
Taking all applications if you want to further the advancement of Podium Esports into the stars beyond. Sign up for the Podium Esports Space Administration today. Maybe we can extend our reach to the stars above too. It's a good check to see how old some of you are or aren't. But in fairness,
well, you want to say that this is one small step for drivers, one giant step for esports?
Perhaps. So, I can tell if Cisco's any indication, Cisco's dying over here.
He is. We might have to resuscitate him here in a few seconds.
Potentially. He's trying to recite the whole thing in my ear.
No.
Now you get it.
The light bulb goes off.
The light bulb does finally go off there. Now, to be fair, my first name is James, so I think if anybody has a right to do that sort of thing,
it is you.
Although I suppose I probably should say something more along the lines of, and make it double. It's one thing if you're going to actually recite the lines.
You have to do it.
Well, it's another thing to have the accent, but we'd also need a Jesse in there too. So surprised chat hasn't jumped in on this. I figure somebody in chat. Yeah, somebody in chat has a take on this because the internet always has a take, right?
Of course.
So, although to be fair, I think the chat actually is starting to debate where the best championship race should be. So let's take that as an ask the booth. Where would you want a championship race to be if you're tweaking the schedule for 21?
That's a good one. Well, of course,
my answer.
We'll go ahead with your answer.
The one, the only paperclip in them all, Martinsville.
Ooh, now that's a pretty good one, I would have to say. But you know what? I think let's go a little bit more different, a little more old school as well. Sticking to the short track schedule as well, but since NASCAR is now going to Nashville for their season-ending championship celebration, why not we go to Nashville Fairgrounds?
There's been a lot of talk about Nashville rejoining the Cup schedule. Of course, there are a lot of factors that would go into that. There's multi-million-dollar upgrades that would need to come in order for that to be a reality. There's also the matter of trying to figure out who would operate the track. There was the dissolution of the contract between Formosa Productions and the county council in Nashville earlier today. So plenty of developments to come on that front. But if they can get the fairgrounds added back to the track, we know it's coming to iRacing in the future. The scanning of the track has already been confirmed. Would be a very interesting place to see things go, and it makes me wonder how many people would dust off potentially NASCAR Racing 2, NASCAR Racing 3. So some of iRacing's grandfathers that had the Fairground Speedway when it was a track in the Xfinity Series. To bring it full circle. How fitting, right?
Of course.
Bolin, your leader, coming to lap 135 of 140. Maybe the last restart here. Then Lyon, Alfalfa, Bryant, Allen, Sheehan, Smith, Keister, Greglia, Nelson, your top 10. If you hadn't already reached up there and pulled those seatbelts tight one more time, might be a little bit too late. Might be a little bit too late for Ray Alfala to start going because Bolin and Lyon jumped out way ahead of him. So Alfala back to third. Brian already clear fourth again as Sheehan tries to make moves on the inside. They're three line a little bit further back, and it looks like everybody way back there didn't really get the best of restarts as we continue to push on, and Bolin is already out in front by 2-3 car lengths as we come to 5 laps to go.
5 laps to go here as a little bit of contact between Smith and Allen as they come off of turn 4 side by side. It's now going to be Gariglia joining the battle here as he gets to the inside of Eric Smith. He's going to complete the pass as they come off of turn 2. Now single file from about 5th to 6th on back.
They were three line a little bit further on back with Bolin now starting to just put the pressure on Lyon to keep up and keep pace. He's got all sorts of speed, looking for his second win in a row and his second win in as many weeks, and his second win of this 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series, and he's out in front now by 0.3 of a second on that 137 of 140.
Everybody now starting to spread out and up towards the front of the field now, but it's still a battle for outside the top 10 as Chris Sherburne and Colin Keith are going to go side by side as David Shutt is going to join the battle as they go down the front straightaway into turn 1. Looks like Chris Sherburne's going to try to shut the door on David Shutt. Now a little contact, little hip check between Shutt and Colin Keister. He's going to go 3 wide as they come off of turn 2.
Liam Brotherton was able to sneak past as well, but Bolin is the man that all eyes are on. 2 laps to go this time by, and he's now out in front by 3.5 of a second.
Can anyone have anything to say for Graham Boylan as they're now coming out of turn 2? Nathan Lyon doing everything that he can to try to keep up pace or hold off Ray Alfala as they go back into turn 3.
We made the point earlier tonight. The hundreds add up, and they are here. Now it's a 38/100ths of a second as Bolin takes the white flag at Dover. 2 more corners for Bolin to claim his second win of the season. Can Lyon do anything about it?
He's trying everything, but does not get a good run off of turn 2. Down into turn 3 for the final time.
One last stab at it, but it won't be enough, and Graham Bolin will come off of turn 4 and drive from 37 to P1 and pick up the victory in tonight's NASCAR iRacing Pro Series event at Dover International Speedway. We've seen some drives through the field, but not too many more impressive than what Graham Bolin has done tonight. Nathan Lyon was second and Ray Alfala third. Bob Bryant and Steve Sheehan rounded out the top 5, but what a drive for the 41 machine of Graham Bolin to come up through this field and pick up 36 positions from where he started en route to his second victory in the 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series season.
I don't think we'll see another drive like that for a while now. What a drive for Graham Bolin. I mean, the kid has a lot of talent. I'm looking forward to see what he can do come 2020.
Graham Bolin, Graham Boling, Graham Boylan. I figure we'll catch him here on chat and see what he ends up saying this week as he gets set to burn it down here. Waits and waits and waits and waits and waits. Maybe he isn't burning it down. Maybe it's a Polish victory lap. Ah, there we are. Now come the burnouts as the 41 begins to burn it down. And while he celebrates, we will turn to the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished. Starting with Bolin, your race winner for the second week in a row over Nathan Lyon in the 47 machine. Ray Alfala finishes P3, and that should be pretty significant. I suspect it may well keep him in second in points, actually. He and Bolin should be very close when the math is all calculated and done and dusted. Bob Bryant finished in the 4th spot. Another good run for the 53 machine. Steve Sheehan came up to the front of this field late and gets a great finish out of it. I believe that's a season's best P5 for the number 6 car. Jeremy Allen was top 5, top 10 all night, gets a 6th place finish. Michael Gariglia comes up a little bit from where he started to finish P7. Ben Nelson was top 10 for a good chunk of the evening, finishes 8th. Eric Smith took advantage of the pit strategy and then just stayed up there with the track position, had enough pace. And then Brian Schoenberg rounds out the top 10.
Coming home in the 11th position will be Chris Sherburne, followed by Liam Brotherton in 12th. Brandon Cattell will come home in the 13th position with Cody Bias in 14. Corey Carpenter started in 29th, gained a couple of spots up to 15th with Ashton Crowder in 16th. John Gorlinski, a tough night for him, started 3rd, finishes in 17th with Justin Bolton in 18th. David Shutt moved his way up through the field, gaining about 10 spots, finishing in 19th with Colin Keister rounding out your top 20.
21st went to Casey Tucker in the 28 machine. Braden Boulos finished in the 22nd position. 23rd went to Chris Overland, and Kane Cook finished in 24th. Alex McConnell got swept up in some incidents about midway through the race and finishes in the 25th position. 26th went to the 32 of Brian Blackford. Timmy Hill finished in 27th. 28th, and the last car on the lead lap was Nicholas Shelton. First car one lap down was Jesse Sports, finished in 29th, and 30th went to the 13 of Matthew Wright.
High-flying Will Cooley will come home 31st and 7 laps down with Adam Gilliland in 32nd. Santiago Tires will come home in 33rd, followed by Michael Guest in 34th. Brad Mahar will come home in the 35th position with Adam Benefield in 36th. Ethan Lane will come home in 37th with Jeremy Davis in 38th, and Logan Kress will come home in 39th.
And there is your full field rundown to tell you where your favorite driver finished this evening. And at this point, the bowling ball, Boylan, Graham, do you have any other jokes for us this week? Any other nicknames that we need to add to the lists? Do we get, 15 achievement points or something, or I would say 20 if it were me, for coming up 36 spots in tonight's race? I guess just talk about how you ended up back there to start with, and then sort of just take us through the race as we progress.
It's kind of embarrassing, but I didn't even sign up for the Q session. I was testing the race set, and then it was like 7:38 last time I checked the clock, and then it was 7:45 all of a sudden. So I didn't even sign up for the Q session. So I thought my race was over before it even started.
But clearly you had a pretty strong setup, and clearly you all had picked up a few things and figured out a few things in practice and managed to just absolutely fly through this field. So what's in the water at Dead Zone that we need to start drinking? I don't know. Did y'all go grab some of Michael Jordan's secret stuff or something?
Just a long run pace. Our long run pace is insane, and we have good setup guys that help us during the race to make pit road adjustments, and big day.
Big day, big practice, big time. But more importantly, first off, back-to-back wins in back-to-back weeks. You're the first two-time winner this season in the Pro Series. And more importantly, points lead, I think, goes to you, maybe by a point over Ray. It'll be tight, but I think you at least have a share of it. So thoughts on all of that combined?
Great. Hopefully the momentum just swings me into the rest of the season like this. I don't think I'm gonna win every race, but I think I'll do pretty good the rest of the season if I just keep my nose clean.
And I'll backtrack a little bit, just the importance of sort of waiting patiently to pick off cars here at Dover. You figured it out better than anybody else. Just talk about the differences of coming through the field here compared to some of the other tracks in the service.
It's really hard because the top's really good, and when you're under a car, you can't really diamond the corner as much as you can without a car above you. So it's just really hard because you get tight and you just can't get by people. But I got on people's right rear and stuff. So our long run pace was insane. Again, thanks to you for Dustin Langer and Houston Hammer and Nathan Lyon on working on the set. I put some laps down too. So did Gariglia. We worked together this week again.
Yeah, pretty good night for you all. That 1-2 for Dead Zone coming in handy. Before we let you go, first, as always, an opportunity to give you your chance to say thanks to everybody at Dead Zone and all the folks that make it happen for you.
Thank you to Dustin Langer, Houston Hammer, Nathan Lyon, Michael Griglia, anybody else who worked on the set, and thank you to Rowden Graphics for painting that beautiful Sparko machine. And that's really it. It was a really good race. It was insane.
And then, and Cisco may be able to help us here. If the photo that you sent us is any indication for your headshot, do you want to wish everybody a season's greetings or a happy hair swoop or something to the audience here?
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, Happy New Year, and Merry Christmas, I guess. So
We're talking about Kwanzaa, Hanukkah?
Oh, Hanukkah, everything. Whatever you celebrate.
Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, if you want.
Yeah.
Pull some cues from Seinfeld. Festivus, too. Can't forget Festivus.
Yeah, true.
Okay, but we'll leave you in peace. Go celebrate with the hat and the hair swoop and the 2 wins in a row, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week, Graham.
All right, see you, man. Thank you.
Graham Boland P1 for the 2nd week in a row, and not a bad week for Dead Zone Racing either. They get P2 as well, and Taylor Burris is caught up with our runner-up tonight, Mr. Nathan Lyon.
Here with Nathan Lyon. Nathan, a great run for you tonight, finishing in 2nd with your Dead Zone teammate winning tonight. Tell us how the car was for you as you worked hard to work your way up through the field.
Yeah, the car is pretty good actually. With it being overcast and really cold conditions, it kind of threw us off a little bit at first, but we adjusted as the race went on. Once it got the turn in it, it was really fast again, just like last week. I was able to just continue in the top 5, and of course Graham was really quick. He really had that thing dialed in, and I think he's probably the quickest driver out of all of us too through testing and everything. So he was able to find his way to the lead pretty quick.
What was the struggle that you had as far as finding that extra speed compared to Graham?
Just trying to get the turn through the center. Really, he was able to get in the throttle a lot sooner than I was, and that's what really hurt me.
Well, as we go to the next round, how confident do you feel as you work your way up through the point standings?
I feel pretty confident. Charlotte's a really fun racetrack, especially since it's at the new Charlotte. So worn out track, very hot, very slick surface. So I'm very excited for that. Darlington will be pretty fun as well. And then, of course, closing it out at Homestead's always a great race.
Well, before we let you go, we'd like to let you say thank you to all the people who help you race from week to week.
Yeah, of course, everyone at Dead Zone Racing and Houston and Dustin for all their help with the car and making it fast. PC Solutions Ohio for coming on board for the Pro Series. You got to get your custom iRacing BC built at PC Solutions. Definitely check out their Facebook page at PC Solutions Ohio. Round Graphics for making awesome looking cars. It was really cool to see them 1-2 today. And of course, you guys at Podium Esports for doing the awesome broadcast each week.
We thank you for coming on, and congratulations on finishing 2nd here at Dover, Nathan.
Thank you.
Nathan Lyon comes home P2. We now bring in Bob Bryant, who came home P4, and Bob is with our Gary Weaver.
Yeah, here with Bob Bryant finishing P3 after coming into this race, P6 in points, and exiting in the 3rd place position. How are you feeling heading into Charlotte? 4th place, rather. Sorry, but how are you feeling going into Charlotte for next week?
Feel great, man. We've had some killer cars here the last few weeks. We all kind of boned qualifying last week and didn't do very well, but other than that, we've had the speed, good strategy calls, and looking good so far.
And definitely is looking good for the time being with that cut line essentially looming almost every race. What are you feeling? Do you have any thoughts, or do you just go week by week in terms of thinking about that cut line? Do you even worry about it at some points?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, sometimes it's hard to sleep thinking about the cut line. It's first thing I think of when I wake up in the morning, and last thing I think of when I go to sleep at night. So just very happy to put a lot of buffer between me and that terrible line.
Yeah, that terrible line is definitely going to hopefully never get its chance to meet you. So before we go ahead and let you go, anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to whoever makes it happen for you?
My crew chief, Rodney Steffen, is absolutely amazing. Putting together fast pieces every week. Drill Isle is really working well as a team. My girlfriend Caroline puts up with all this and having fun, and see y'all next week.
I definitely will. Let's see you next week at Charlotte. Thanks for your time, and well, we hope to talk to you again.
Sounds good. Take care, Gary.
Bob Bryant, P4 tonight here at Dover. And so we get set to start looking towards Charlotte Motor Speedway next Tuesday night, the 5th track of 7 on the list, and the final track before the Thanksgiving/quarter build break. So, Gary Weaver, you first. Your thoughts on what we've seen tonight and what we should expect at Charlotte.
What we've seen tonight is definitely going to be completely different to what we've seen at Charlotte. Possibly remnants of Atlanta. We might see a completely different winner, like how we saw Ray Alfala completely dominate at Atlanta after having some bad luck at Daytona. So Charlotte could be another little bit of a helper for some other drivers here to get back up either into the top 20 or even keep their place in the top 20. So definitely something to look ahead for.
Very interesting. We'll start seeing some drivers really get desperate because I think if you're in a bad spot coming out of Charlotte, you only have 2 races to make it up. So not a lot of time to fix mistakes if you end up on the wrong side of the cut line after next week's race. But even then, we're already halfway through the season now, Taylor Burris. So not a lot of time left to make things happen anyway. I think we'll see a little bit more aggression, especially on the restarts. And we know how crazy life could get at Charlotte coming out on turn 2 in particular.
Yeah, next week is going to be crunch time for a lot of these drivers to determine can they make their way into the top 20. And Charlotte's going to be a definite track where we could see a first-time winner rise up to the top of the field to next week. Or, of course, we could see the domination of Graham Bolin and Ray Alfala come back up through fruition once we get this race started next week. And then, of course, once we get to the end of that race, the break will start. And a lot of drivers will have to either determine keep doing what they're doing or go back to the drawing board.
Gives them a chance to reset before the final 2 races of the season and the final season finale in an official capacity for NASCAR racing on iRacing for a while at Homestead, Miami, come that week before Christmas in December. So a lot to transpire over the next 5 weeks or so, but our focus will turn now to what's coming up just within the next 7 days here with Podium Esports. First up, iRacing Esports Network Friday night for the season finale of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. The short layout at Road Atlanta, 911 GT3 Cup cars, some of the best sim racers from across the entirety of the PCA. So many different regions represented there. Should be a lot of fun to see how they shake out their championship fight. We'll go live with our broadcast this Friday night, November 15th, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Sunday night over on the iRacing Esports Network, these Xfinity Series cars combined with trucks on the same racetrack at the same time in multi-class oval racing. It's the iRacers Lounge Podcast Oval Series from Rockingham Speedway, and that'll be over on twitch.tv/Podium Esports this Sunday night, November 17th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Start for that broadcast before we come back to this Facebook page, the iRacing Esports Network, and the iRacing Twitch channel this Tuesday night, November 19th, 1 week from tonight. We are back on the air for round 5 of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series from Charlotte Motor Speedway, round 5 of 7. It certainly does feel like it will be maybe the most pivotal round, at least in the sense of giving us a picture of who really has a shot to make the 2020 NASCAR iRacing Series and who might be running Road to Pro in 2020 and trying to claw their way back into the Pro Series next year. But for now, that is going to round out our broadcasts here on the iRacing Twitch channel, the iRacing Facebook page, and the iRacing Esports Network. Don't forget that if you haven't been paying attention, the bike cam's been back up and live. So if you want to go see a little bit more post-race fun, you can head on over to facebook.com/Podium Esports and hang out. We'll be hanging out for the post-race show, as we like to call it, for a few minutes. And we'll take some more of the fun questions, and you get to see life behind the screen and behind the cameras. And you get to see what life is like for those of us who are broadcasting these races. So if you're not quite done with your iRacing this evening, head on over there for a little bit more fun. But beyond that, we'll go ahead and sign off for tonight's podcast. So for DJ Lyon, for Gary Sexton, for John Theodore at Podium Esports, for tonight's producer, Cisco Scaramuza, for my partner in the booth, Taylor Burris, and for our main man down on pit road, Mr. Gary Weaver, I am James Punt, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching Podium Esports broadcast this evening for the NASCAR.